first item is Pledge of Allegiance. So let's have Galen, who has returned to us from the Northland, lead us in the pledge.
Will do. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to approve the agenda.
Mayor,
Councilman Shuttrin,
I make a motion, we approve the agenda.
Mayor,
Councilman Kilpack.
I have a couple amendments I'd like to make on the agenda.
Okay,
And down in the consent agenda, I would like to take item B. No, I lied to you. Item D. And move that up in the council action item as item B. And then I'd like to take item E and move that up into the council action item C as item C. If I could, please. So it's item D. Going to council action item B. And then item E. From the consent agenda going to council action item C.
okay, so procedurally, we have a motion, but we didn't have a second. And we have an amendment to the motion before having any action. So what do you parliamentary procedure people going to recommend to us? How do we proceed with this?
Mr. Mayor, I'd recommend the second and then the amendment. So have someone second it and then take the amendment as amended and then vote on the amendment again.
Okay, so we have a council person that would like to amend the motion. Do we have a second on Councilman Kilpack's request?
No, we need to do a second on approving the agenda. And
Is that what you said?
Yeah, let's do a motion on
Okay.
a second for approving the agenda.
Okay, I thought you said the opposite. Okay, so let's have a motion on approving the agenda.
Second,
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Shutter and seconded by Councilwoman Bushman. Is there any discussion? Now, Councilman Kilpack has offered an amendment. Is there a second on the amendment?
I'll second the amendment.
Okay, so we have a motion. We have a second. Which one are we going to vote on? Both first?
You'll vote on the amendment first.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so all those in favor of Councilman Kilpack's amendment to bring those items off of the consent agenda indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, we have that taken care of. So back to the original motion. All in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Did I get that right? Wow. Okay. So starting off on the agenda, citizen requests and other communications. Are there any citizens in the audience that are not on the agenda that would like to address the council? Seeing none, I'm moving on. Resolutions. Item A, consideration of a resolution amending the schedule of fees. Go ahead, Chris.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. You know, every year I have something in the budget I just struggle with. And this year it seemed to be the schedule of fees. So this year we're bringing this back forward to you with just some mostly clerical changes, things that will make it really hard to make change, stuff like that in some of our stuff and just some procedural changes. So at this point, we request the council tonight to do that. You can see that the red line copy, most of the fees are proposed to go up just slightly and rounding mostly to even dollar amounts, just to help out with some procedural and some things to do business. And so we don't have to deal with quarters and pennies and stuff nearly as much as well. So
Okay, I'm going to start off with, does somebody want to make a motion?
Mayor,
Councilman Shuttron.
I move to approve the resolution amending the schedule of fees for the city of Green River fiscal year ending June 30th of 2023 with an effective date of July 1st, 2023.
Second,
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Shuttron. Was that you, Councilman Kilpack? And seconded by Councilman Kilpack. Is there any discussion? Anybody have any questions on any of those red line things? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries, passes unanimously. When I say that, by the way, because I can't always tell, if you didn't vote, let me know, okay? Item B, consideration of a resolution to establish a process to administratively issue catering permits, 24-hour malt beverage permits, and other open container permits. And we talked about this in the last meeting or two. So I think we know, does everybody know what we're dealing with here? Okay, I believe we have spoken about it. So we'll entertain a motion.
Mayor,
Councilman Shuttron.
I move to approve the resolution authorizing the city administrator to oversee the issuance of catering permits, 24-hour malt beverage permits, and open container permits, and act on behalf of the governing body.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Shuttron, seconded by Councilwoman Bushman. Go ahead and give us 30 seconds of what this is all about, okay?
oh, Mr. Mayor, you're trying to make me stay in 30 seconds. You know, I can't do that.
Yeah, well,
your 30 seconds are already up.
Good, we're done. Overall, as you know, we're starting to see a lot of cities and towns move these to that. Our ordinance does stipulate that it's approval by the mayor and our mayor and governing body to approve these permits. Some portions of it are allowable by the police chief and some stuff. So we're going to make an administrative procedure right now. We do have a significant amount of ordinance changes we need to make to the liquor ordinances to comply with some new state statutes that come out over the last 2 years. And we'll finalize this change with that. But this is just to tide us over so we don't have to have near as many special meetings. I think every special meeting we've had in the last 2 years has been from this. And we think it'll actually help and be a little more administrative friendly to our businesses in town.
okay, thank you, Chris. Is there any questions of Chris? Okay, seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Item C, consideration of a resolution approving a subdivision variance.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. So tonight, we're here tonight to consider the resolution granting the subdivision variance within the proposed Pipeline Estate subdivision. The subdivision variance being requested is for the lot depth to ratio of the lots that exceed the 2.5 to 1. We've allowed the same variances in other subdivisions for property with odd shaped lots, lots with topography constraints, and it also will help alleviate any unnecessary remnants of land. So rather than just having a square, that's why we don't just have square lots. Recently, we allowed the same subdivision variance for the Seneschal subdivision. P&Z reviewed this preliminary plat on June 14th and established that this is one of the conditions of approval. This action does not create the subdivision. It just allows Mr. Stanton to continue to the next step of the subdivision process, which still includes, he would have to still submit engineering drawings, which would have to go through review and approval, and the final plat process, which would still go before planning and zoning again and the council. In his previous submittal, since his previous submittal, he has addressed the items that were of concern with the 100-foot corridor. So he's done these things that he needed to do to gain approval and start getting this process moving forward. So again, I just want to remind the council that this is not approving the subdivision. This is just for the subdivision variance, and we can start moving to the next steps.
Okay, thank you.
And
Don't
he's
go
here if you guys
away.
have any questions? Okay.
We'll just open it up to questions now. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, if not, I'll entertain a motion.
Sure.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sherry.
Just two questions. First one, what are the pros and cons?
Pros and cons. of the sub-
Meaning, the con of not approving, and obviously you already told us about the, for Mr. Stratton here. What is the con of if this is not approved? What's his next steps?
He can't move forward at this point unless he wanted to reconfigure the lots and make
Okay.
them more square and square them up and then, which again could potentially leave like remnants of, unusable property also. So, the con would be that, I mean, the process, he has to be able to gain that. I know that I talked to him before the meeting. So he might be able to actually answer if there's some alternatives, but we see this a lot just because of our topography here a lot. We have very long lots and, they get the whole hillside of them because what are you going to do with it if you don't, So again, this isn't I don't know. The con is, it's just a longer process. We'd still have to come back before you guys again to get the subdivision variance before he can even, take the next steps. So again, this isn't approving the subdivision at all right now. It's just getting us to the next step.
Okay, thank you.
Does that answer your question?
That answered that question.
Okay, Councilman Kilpack.
I just have one comment that might help Sherry on this
Sure.
is what I was involved with planning and zoning when this all began. And then George ended up taking over because I couldn't do it on the Wednesday nights. But right now, as I understand it, because I went and talked to Mark, I didn't get a chance to talk to Amy because she wasn't there, but it looks like to me that he has met everything that the Planning and Zoning Commission has asked of him. And if he has met everything that they have asked of him, I don't think we can deny it. Because he has, and we may not agree with it. He knows how I feel about that area where all those pipelines are, but he has jumped through every hoop that they've asked him to jump through and then some. So I don't know if we can actually stop him from moving forward. But that's just my own personal opinion.
Yeah, my only comment on that is what the fact that, and this is not anything negative, but the fact that a citizen does all that's asked of him doesn't give him the right to do something if it's felt by this group when they vote, that's not the right thing. It's just a comment. So,
Well-
I mean, I think you can, is what I'm saying.
We can deny it, but
I
after,
understand what you're saying.
yeah, and
Gary.
I talked to Mark and I talked to Jaeger, and he still has a lot of things that he's going to have to comply with when he starts getting building permits and things. So it's not, I mean, it's not a done deal, but we can deny it. And you're right, Mayor. We
Yeah,
can.
it's, the bottom line is it's a strange piece of property, and because there's a high pressure pipeline, people have concerns because of the slope. People have concerns because of the nature of where the lot is. People have concerns. So, anyway, does anybody have any other questions? Go ahead, Councilman.
It's probably more for Ms. Stratton, but we've always brought about the safety issue. Would you, I'm just putting it out there, would you be interested in trading that property to something else in town if someone would be willing to do that?
Yeah, thank you for the question. We entertained that idea. I had a rigorous discussion with Reed Clevenger about it. I spoke with Mark about it. And the short answer is no, there really isn't anything that the city, I mean, we looked into it and it would be a number of years process. And so right now we've got over $25,000 in re-engineering on this piece of property already. So it's kind of a loser already. So we're just pushing it through to the end to build a few houses down there. So basically the answer is we tried and it didn't go anywhere really. So
What if a private citizen would want to trade for that property? I'm just, again, it's just
Jerry, do you have a
ideas.
piece of property you'd like to
Everything's fine.
swap? Yeah, I mean,
I'm just throwing things
I'm
out there. just
always
see.
willing to entertain any good idea.
Okay.
And quite frankly, if somebody had a couple of acres they wanted to swap, I'd be happy to do it. But, and they could get some great engineering to go along with it. But right now, as it stands, no, we're just
Okay.
gonna move forward with it.
I just, just want to open that dialogue just to make sure what options are out there. Thank you for answering.
Thanks.
Okay, do we have any other questions or comments? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Mayor,
Councilman Kilpack or Councilman Jost.
I move we approve the resolution granting the subdivision variance as requested for the proposed Pipeline Estates subdivision of 4-lot residential subdivision within the city of Green River, Wyoming.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Nay.
Okay, if I'm correct, it's 6-1. Is that correct? Everybody else voted in favor? Okay. You got that? Okay. Item 7, council action items, consideration of amendment to the CWSRF loan for the WWTP replacement facility. Wow.
Good evening, Mayor. Mark Westonsko, Public Works Director. This is just simply a paperwork issue because we have previously requested loan increases for the wastewater treatment plant of the State Land Investment Board. They have approved those, and this is basically the document that will eventually get the mayor's and the governor's signature to document that.
Okay, thank you, Mark. Does anybody have any questions of Mark? If not, we'll entertain a motion.
Yeah, Mayor,
Yes, Councilman Jost.
I move we approve the second amendment to the loan agreement CW 182 for the wastewater treatment plant replacement facility and project to authorize and authorize the mayor to sign the agreement.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved by Councilman Jost, seconded by Councilman Berg. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Okay, item B, and let me get to this.
Yeah. Right. And the one.
What page is item B on?
No, B and C. Yeah, I'm consent.
What is it?
Yeah, E and F are now B and C. That was Gary's proposal here. E and F
Oh,
are B
it
and
is.
C
You're
now.
right. Okay. So it's really item D first up, right?
Yes.
Okay. Who's going to speak to this? Go ahead, Chris.
Mayor and council, so the Badass Brews on this item has asked to have a open container permit and closing down some of the highways on North First, Second, East and Flaming Gorge ways for I can't remember the exact name about not being able to admit Two Broke for Sturgis. Here it is. We've been in contact with them and talking a little bit about some of the stuff, and actually just recently before the meeting, we talked to them a little bit about closing down that Flaming Gorge Way and some of that areas and some of the requirements that we're going to need and they're going to need and that. And he said maybe next year that they would look at that, and they're really wanting to amend and just closing North First East from Flaming Gorge to Railroad on this deal. So I'm not sure if that's what Mr. Kilpack's concern was on that or not. But it doesn't sound like they're going to look at closing Flaming Gorge Way down for this one, for this event.
You say it doesn't look like they're going to.
It does not. It doesn't look like between the city having enough capabilities and barriers and that to help him out and them not having enough time and planning to take care of it. They're going to scale down the event a little bit.
Yeah, I wouldn't vote for it if they were going to close down Flaming Gorge Way. Just personally, it's a main street. Doesn't make any sense. But just my thought. Okay, thank you, Chris. Does anybody have any comments for Chris or?
So the way I'm reading this, it's not shutting down Flaming Gorge Way, it's shutting down
Sidewalk in the alley.
down the street from you. Is that correct?
The original request was to shut down Flaming Gorge Way on this. The motion itself only shows North First East because we were still trying to work that out. But at the original request was to shut down Flaming Gorge Way. So when we get started putting the traffic plan and everything else together, just moving a little too fast for everybody's comfort level at this point. They started with a traffic plan and that, and we do shut that portion of Flaming Gorge Way down once in a while, and we can mitigate that really easily with a good traffic plan. But we talking with the vendor and Public Works and the police department that it might not enough time to plan and get that all situated and arise. So I think they've agreed to scale that back down to just there on North First East, basically right in front of the brewery, and down that between Flaming Gorge and Railroad, just out Main Street there, which we've closed off fairly frequently. Red, White, and Buffalo's asked for it a few times, and that we do several events right in there. And then on the next catering request, you're going to see the Buck and Bar is going to ask to do some work into the alley on that as well for this same event, and we don't see an issue with that either.
Okay, but you're correct, Robert, as far as that goes. Okay, any other comments on this? Okay, if not, we'll entertain a motion.
Mayor,
Yes.
I don't know how to bring this up, but I make a motion that we discuss issuance of an open container permit to BADASS Brewery LLC.
Second that motion.
Okay, well, I think since it's been taken off the agenda, isn't that what we're doing?
No, we just moved it from consent to an action item. So
Yeah.
you've got
Okay.
a motion and a second. You can vote on it, Mr. Mayor.
So you want to discuss it, but you're not making a motion to pass it or not.
I made a motion because I have to make a motion to bring it on the table, and then it had to be second, and now it should be under discussion,
Up for discussion. Yes, sir.
Okay, let's discuss it.
right?
Yes, sir.
Okay. The concern I have on the reason I asked to have this brought up is there's a couple of concerns I had. And one of the concerns I had on it is, as it says in his letter, the event on August 5th and 6th will be Two Broke to Sturgis, and will be a small motorcycle rally for the people of the county and surrounding areas that cannot make it to Sturgis this year. Well, my concern is I don't want Green River to be a little Sturgis. We don't need anything like that in our community. And so I have a real issue with them trying to turn this area into a little Sturgis, because I don't have a lot of good things to say about Sturgis. And so I talked to the chief of police tonight and asked him about security and how he felt about it. And I'd ask him if he could come and tell everybody what he told me.
Mayor and council members, with special events that have alcohol, there's always two concerns for us. Making sure that minors don't have availability to the alcohol. So we always ask for a plan for that. And then some type of security. Simply because large events with a large number of people, and this one, I believe they estimated they could have up to 2,000 people. That many people with alcohol just inherently has unruly behavior at some point. So there has to be some type of security. Generally, we will staff these things if we can, but that's becoming an issue for us. Primarily because we're seeing more and more special event applications that involve alcohol. It seems like there's one a week, one every couple of weeks, and we only have 25 sworn officers right now. So it's hard to get guys to work all of this overtime, and then it's hard to pay all of that overtime. So it becomes a question of responsibility at some point as far as who provides the security. I don't know what their security plan is at this point. I don't think they have one, but I can tell you right now, we don't have the manpower to staff this event because it's the same weekend as the Nitro Truck Tour at the rodeo grounds. And we're already staffing that with 4 officers, I believe. I simply can't get enough to staff this event with 2,000 people, if that's what were to show up. So.
And the other concern I had is just the word Sturgis. To me, that just indicates that it could be a little mischievous, or it could be a little bit of issues that I don't think is good for the city of Green River. And just like the county fair, they have their own staff. They hire their own group to do security, like the chief is talking about. And I would think in an event like this, if that's going to happen, then they should be responsible for their own security and their own people. I don't think the city should have to pay officers overtime to come in and man that event. But that's just me. And so for that reason, I'm not going to vote for it. Because I can see this big, and next year this big, and the next year this big, and the next year I can see it really becoming a problem down the road. So that's just how I feel.
Mayor, I've got a comment.
Yes, Councilman Byrd.
So with Badass Brews LLC, they have basically 2 different events on here. The first event is for July 29th, 2023 from 10 to 6, which it's going to be kind of like a car show. So it's going to be a lot of lower key. So I'd be interested to know if council would be interested in splitting this one as far as the motion, approving the issuance of an open container permit to them to do the show off your ride car show event on July 29th. And then we could take the second half of that one and then the next action item and table those to the next meeting and have further discussion on those the Tuesday before that event. Would that work, Chris?
You could do that. You'll want to make an amended motion to make that happen, but yes, you could do that.
Mayor, I will amend my motion to equal what Councilman Berger said.
Okay.
Mayor,
Yeah.
just a quick comment. So just in terms of a big event like that, so Music for Vets is a good example at the island. They manage their own security and they take care of all that. For something that can be maybe 10 people show versus up to 2,000, it definitely should be probably for them to probably further discuss, and they can probably, and since Russ is here, probably can attest to that. Nice timing, Russ.
Because that's what I'm thinking is if a security plan for the 2 bars to do the Sturgis event, they could come up with their security plan by that meeting for us to approve.
Right.
But I don't think that for the car show part of it, I don't think we should table it to not allow them to do that event.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right.
Yes, it does, from my point of view.
I agree.
Okay.
So basically, Gary did make a motion on what I suggested for an amendment. So I will second that amendment, and then we can have discussion on just the car show part.
And we've basically had that. Does anybody else want to weigh in on this? Okay,
Question here.
go ahead, Ron.
With the security and different stuff like that, Russ just showed up. He
Right.
could maybe explain some of this too. So-
Yeah, and I think too that the bigger issue is if what the chief just said, if we don't have the people to cover an event properly in terms of security, that's public safety. So if we don't have the ability to do that, we have to have in this process security plans provided to us that we're comfortable with, that we would obviously, in my mind, obviously, we would have the police department maybe the fire department, other people, emergency management, different people weigh in on whether they feel is adequate. Because if this is an expanding situation, which is what the chief just told us, and I can see that, alcohol events, things of that nature, we need to have the people that are asking for those events to provide a plan for us, because we can't otherwise provide the public safety. That's what we've been told.
And that's where the chief mentioned that was the Nitro Circuit Tour.
Right.
That's going on.
Right. I
August 5th and
understand
6th.
that.
Do you have any concerns with the event on July 29th, chief?
I don't. That's something we generally wouldn't staff because of the time frame and your typical participants that you would expect to be there. We probably wouldn't staff that.
Thank you, chief.
And I think if we went ahead and approved the motion that has been suggested by Gary and seconded by me, that's for the car show. Then when we go on to action item C, which will be the one for Buck and Bar, then Russ can have some time to talk about that, because that's when we'll bring up the security, is, the concerns with security.
Well, and the other question I have, which I'm okay with that, Robert. The other question I have is it's an approval of an issuance of a open container permit. Now, the other one that we're going to talk about is a little different. And so I think for the event on July the 29th, that's where they're asking for the open container permit. And that's the way I read the letter that came from Chris for the consent agenda, is on the 29th, that from 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. they're just looking for an open container permit for the car show. Is that how you read that, Robert? That's how I read that.
It is. It's an open container permit for both shows, for both events. The one being from 10 to 6.
One is for the 29th and one is for
It's
the
listed
5th.
as plural in the top,
Yes.
so it's wanting an issuance for both.
Open container for both events. So if we approve the motion that you suggested, that I had said, it would be for an open container for that car show.
For just the car show and
Yes.
not for the surges. So-
Yeah, that would be a separate thing that
That's a
we would,
different.
we
right.
could table until next meeting.
I don't know if we need to table. We might want to discuss a little bit more because Mr. Hamlet's here and he might have some questions.
Yeah.
So Mayor and Council, let me kind of clarify the motion that we keep talking about here. The motion is to amend the motion as said to list that there was an approval for an open container permit for Badass Brewers on July 29th for the Show Off Your Ride car show event. And that's where you would end it. You wouldn't approve.
We
any
already had a
of it.
first and a second for that.
Correct.
So we need to complete the vote on that.
Okay, I think we've got it. Any other comments? Let's, all in favor of the motion signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. So we've got that one taken care of, and we can discuss either tabling it or taking a vote on the other one, correct?
I think the other
If-
one. Yeah, Mayor. I think the other one's not dead. We didn't vote on it, so I think it's just gone. They'll have to reapply. That's the way I look at it.
I look at it as though we split the motion, so it's still open for discussion.
Oh, okay.
That's how I would take it.
I feel that we've got Mr. Hemmert here and we should let him speak to it, and at least it'll give us some information if we do decide to discuss it during the
Right.
next meeting.
And if we need a special meeting or anything else, we can do that. Would you like to just kind of tell us what your
Show and tell.
All right, my name's Russ Hemmert. I'm the owner of Badass Brews. And we were approached by a group of people that wanted to have an event, and they wanted to call it Two Broke for Sturgis. So they couldn't get to Sturgis, but they still wanted to have some kind of event like it. Where the 5th, August 5th would be a poker run, and they haven't discussed any of the details on where yet. But they are talking about an all-day poker run. And we applied for the open container permit on that just for any of the guys that came back and they parked their bikes, closed the street down on North First East. They were asking the Buck and Bar and us if we would be able to get Flaming Gorge closed. And I went, I don't, with the time that's left on this thing, I wouldn't hold my breath on it. I said, but I could try my hardest to get North First East from Flaming Gorge down to Railroad. And then on the 6th, they want to get together and have games and basically just go outside and have some games, cornhole. And I'm not sure what all that would entail, less than the rally in the alley kind of deal. And I hadn't heard of anything about a band or anything like that yet. So with their lack of planning and lack of time to plan, I wouldn't expect anything too big at all. Mostly a bunch of guys on motorcycles that want to come hang out for the day, drink some beer, associate with their fellow guys that ride bikes, and just kind of hang out, play cornhole, that kind of stuff. So we didn't put any kind of security plan in place for this just because they weren't having anything that we thought was going to be needing any extra security.
Mayor,
Yes.
concern I have is what Mr. Hammond said, is he said they want an event like Surges. I don't want an event like Surges in Green River, Wyoming. So I'm not in favor of anything that would be like Surges in our small little community. I think that'll destroy our town. Yes, this year it might be little. Next year it's going to be bigger and bigger and bigger. So I can't support that.
Okay.
You'd actually be surprised what Sturgis is like now.
I can't support it.
Sturgis nowadays is guys from California, New York, New Hampshire, South Carolina that fly into Sturgis, rent a motorcycle in Rapid City, and drive a motorcycle around in the Black Hills for 3 days.
Okay, council. Go ahead.
Thanks, Russ, for being here. I just had a quick question for you, though. It's already been said that it can be up to 2,000 people. Where did that number come from? What is that source coming from?
I have no idea where that number came from. I thought
'Cause
that
that's
the
great.
2,000 that I saw in the email was for the monster trucks that day. And I thought, wow, they're predicting high.
Okay, that's
but
better
the-
clarification.
Yeah, I
Thank
would
you.
say
That
40,
makes
50
sense.
people. I mean,
Okay,
the rally in the alley was 2 weeks ago, and I walked down to check it out. And there was like 30 people down there.
right. Okay, thank you.
Mhm.
That helped, Mayor.
So yeah, where that kind of came from, Russ, because you walked in kind of right in the middle of that, was your motion was on the table. It was for both events. And there was just concern that 2,000 people would be converging on your street. And, the chief already has the monster truck rally to schedule as far as making sure that's kept under control and contained. And so that's where, when you walked in, I was splitting that motion because I didn't want to kill your opportunity to do the car show in the same motion that was just being discussed as far as Sturgis. So now that we understand that the 2,000 people that's how many people are going to be doing things in Green River that day, mostly the monster trucks. So we'll kind of see where the second part of this goes for you.
So
End up on the next agenda, right?
So Mayor and Council,
Do we
would you
have
like
time?
us to put this on the next agenda?
yes.
We can
So
do that.
Mayor, I'll make a motion that we table the second half of B and go ahead and table action item C until the next council meeting.
Okay, we have a motion. Do we have a second? Go ahead, Chris, if you
Um,
want to correct that.
Yeah, Mayor and Council, you don't need to table the second half of B because you didn't actually have a second half to B. The motion was amended to only approve the car show. This would have had to come back. The second half that you would talk about would have had to come back as a second item. And that way we keep you from having to table, untable, and do all of that stuff.
Okay. So does Russ need to reapply?
We'll take care of that administratively and put it on the next meeting without an issue. That's not a problem.
Okay, so we don't have to table anything.
That depends on what you want to do on this next item that you have as well.
Which is,
Mayor and council, I might suggest you administratively let this die for a lack of a motion, and then we will put it on the next council meeting for a vote if you would care to do it that way.
Are you talking the second?
Yes, the second
one?
item, the catering permit for the Bucking Bar.
So basically just nobody make a motion.
You can, but I've got a serious question on that one.
Then you're gonna have to make a motion.
And then we're gonna have to table.
That's okay with me. If you got a serious question, you got a serious question.
okay, well,
Unless you want to just have Chris say something about it and then ask us if we have any questions first, then I can bring it up that way.
go ahead.
Mayor and council, this is the same items we were just discussing. There's one difference between this item and the previous one is this is for a catering permit. The other one was for an open container permit. The brewery cannot get a catering permit to sell alcohol outside of its premises. Bucking Bar will have a catering permit to sell alcohol outside of their premises on this. Same thing on this one that we don't have as many plans and stuff like that on there, and we can work with them on getting more information to take care of the things that captains or Chief Sterlickson brought up about the minors, the security and things of that nature as well. Mayor and council, do you have any questions of me?
I have some questions.
Go ahead, Councilman.
Number one, as I read through this, I see no place where it says for an open container permit.
So for the open container permit was covered in the one from Badass Brewers in that area. So you only need one open container permit for a permitted area. So they're just going to kind of piggyback on each other for that same one.
So it's legal for the Bucking Bar to have use their permit for open containers.
Yeah, the open container permit is per site, not necessarily per person in the site.
Then the other question I have to me, it's a little serious, maybe for the rest of you, it's not. They're asking for an alcohol beverage permit. So my question is that saying that you can serve any kind of alcohol?
Since they do have a full retail liquor license, yes, they may sell.
So that
And
means
at the catering permit gives them the ability to distribute anything that they can under their retail license.
so that means they can be serving hard alcohol and beer and whatever they want to serve
Yes, Council.
and have an open container permit to do that.
Yes, it does have an open container permit, but you can only serve within a designated area.
But they can serve any type of alcohol that they want.
Correct. Yes, sir. Same with the open container permit. You can have any kind of alcohol you want for an open container permit. It doesn't have to just be beer or wine. It could be spirits or anything else. It's just that open container permit only allows you to have it outside in an area that typically you are not allowed to have alcohol, carry alcohol in the public. An open container permit will allow you to have spirits, wine, beer, malt, anything that you want. They just can't sell it.
Well, and this permit also allows them to serve from 10 a.m. in the morning till 11 p.m. at night, all day long.
That
So
is a
people can
that
be
is
there
a
and drink.
permissible hours under the
And they can
ordinance.
drink all day long.
That is the permissible hours under the ordinance. Yes, Councilman Kilpack. Yes.
That's my questions.
So I guess I'm not grasping the catering permit. If they're already within the area that we're going to issue the open container permit for, the catering permit serves no purpose.
The
I mean,
catering
they're already
permit-
within the,
So the retail liquor store can only distribute within the store. So in the Bucking Bar, the retail liquor license can only distribute or sell in the store. This will allow them a place to distribute outside of the store is what the catering permit allows for. So if they wanted to set up a kiosk in the alley and things like that, but they've got to it's got to meet certain parameters, just like we would anywhere else. You have to be there. You have to have a controlled environment. You can't allow anyone under 21 without the parental permission or other things. Those are all still parts of the ordinance. They just can transfer that. They can move it from their building out to another location within the open container permit. Otherwise, what they
So
would
the only
have to do.
difference is they'll have a sales counter outside rather than what's inside,
Correct, yes.
and they're a block away from where we're already issuing the permit for. Less than a
Correct.
block away.
Correct, yes, sir.
Okay, I still think it's kind of redundant, but
It is, it's kind of a nuance in the ordinance. Under this way, they could have, like I said, if they wanted to, sounded like they wanted to set something up in the alley, correct, Tara? Is that right?
The ability to sell within the areas that the barricade, so if she wanted to have a booth to sell the alcohol, she could on Northwest East.
Right.
She wants people to be able to go from her bar in the back alley and the sidewalk to Northwest East. That's only her intentions, but she wants to sell. And
She wants to distribute outside of her building is the intention on that. And so
and currently her license doesn't allow that.
it does not you must stay inside your licensed building to do that. If you want to go anywhere outside of your license, it does take council action to do that.
Okay.
So they couldn't set up a kiosk or tent or anything like that and sell out in the closed off area or the open container permit area.
Okay. Just for those reasons, I feel it warrants a little bit more discussion amongst us before we do anything. So I'm kind of glad we're tabling it till next meeting.
Mayor, if I may.
Yes, John.
I wanted to clarify on the numbers. I apologize for not doing it earlier when Councilman Berg brought it up, but I wanted to be able to look at the permit to make sure that I didn't read the number wrong. The number of participants on the permit is 2,000 people for this event. Mr. Hemmer has clarified that maybe that's a mistake, but I just wanted you to know that that's the application I received anyway. So that's where my information came from.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. So if we let this die and you administratively re-get this on the next council meeting, can that wording be changed on that?
Very much so. Yes, sir.
Okay, I'll entertain a motion. Okay, hearing no motion, unless somebody is going to. It dies. Okay. So everybody understand what's going on? I think they do.
Absolutely.
And I would certainly say, again, based on what the chief is saying, that if somebody's going to submit something for 2,000 people, I'm just going to tell you, I'm not voting for it. We don't have the ability to do it. We were just told that. Anyway, so somebody refresh my memory. Have we voted on the consent agenda generally? I didn't think so.
We're ready for consent, Mr. Mayor.
Okay, thank you. I'll entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Mayor, I'll make a motion. We approve the consent agenda.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. Entertain a motion. Oh, never mind. Pardon me, Mr. City Administrator. Holy cow.
Mr. Mayor, Reed actually said he didn't have any, but in light of this, we've actually had quite a few internal discussions lately on special permits. What do we provide? What's the city not provide, and things of that nature. Sounds like we need to have a little discussion on some of these catering deals that you guys just administratively allowed us to do. So we'll start having some of those discussions with Reed and that, and put some stuff together. Definitely need to have some discussions in general, what the city provides or what the city can't provide. Is it a first come, first serve things, questions like that might be good for us to table in a workshop someday down the road, maybe when I'm changing liquor ordinances. So
We need to do that because I think there needs to be a number for one that, if you exceed such and such a number, that there's a different security obligation on the part of the person that's making the application.
Yeah, and I know we've been talking to a lot of other cities, towns, counties, what they're doing, and I wish I could say it's halfway consistent somewhere. everyone's kind of making up what they do, things like that. So maybe we put a little guidance together, throw in front of you guys and see how you think it looks, and then we can go from there. As Chief said, when you throw alcohol into some of these events, there's always a little more concern. Sometimes we've got officers we can staff, sometimes we don't. We like to try to be very, very friendly to our people and bring events into town, but sometimes we just don't have the personnel to take care of it.
Yeah, and sometimes we're going to have lots of people, and that may be okay under certain kinds of circumstances. I'm not suggesting you can't have an event that has, it depends on the circumstances, and those need to be discussed ahead of time.
Yeah, we talked to one organization, if they have any alcohol involved, you have to provide your own private security, whether it's 5 people or 500. I don't think we want a 5-person who you can hire for a 5 people deal, but a good number is a good idea, and we'll work with something to come up administratively.
Okay, do you have anything else for us, Mr. Acting City Administrator?
My tour ends tonight, so I'm lucky. So
Okay.
it'll be back next meeting, hopefully.
Okay, Mr. City Attorney, do you have anything for us, Galen?
I have no report tonight, Your Honor.
All right, thank you, Galen. Councilman Kilpack,
I have nothing tonight, Mayor.
Councilman Williams.
I have a couple little things here. Do we have a nuisance officer right now or we don't?
I believe they were just brought on just recently, so they're kind of getting back up to speed and everything else right now. So it's
'Cause
taking a little bit of time.
I know the one left or something
Yep,
like that.
one resigned, and I think I seen him in the office the other day, the new one that we got hired working on that. So they're going to take a little time to get back into the swing of things and work
Okay,
on that.
yeah, but I've been getting quite a few complaints and stuff about the weeds and stuff and a lot of these areas, and they want to get it taken care of. So I said, I'd ask. I didn't think we had one right now, but
It pretty new.
okay. And I had another guy approach me up there at the end of town, and I think it's a good idea. It's kind of, I don't know, but he wanted to lighten up the Green River thing up on Man's Face, put solar lights up there, do something where it lights up the GR and stuff like that. So I was like, he said he seen one up in Mount Pilliard. They had it all lighted up and stuff. He said it looked pretty neat. And I said, that was solar energy kind of stuff. You can put something up there and try it. I'd like to see if staff can maybe see what that would be, and what we could do about doing that. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Councilman Jost.
I just wanted to thank staff. Everybody, they've given me some help in the last week or two on questions I've had. I asked like one question, but it always has like 17 parts. So I appreciate all the help and patience they have with me. Thank you.
Councilman Shetron.
Just in light of last week's high profile traffic accidents we had here on I-80, I just wanted to say thank you to all of our first responders, whether it be the fire department, the police department, or the EMTs. It's always reassuring knowing that we got somebody that's on the way when the chips are down. So thanks for everything that you guys do. I appreciate it.
Well said. We all agree. Right? Councilman Berg.
Okay, I just kind of wanted a clarification, and Chris can correct me if I'm wrong, but where we had voted to allow the city administrator to approve some of those issuances, that those are more for like when there's a catering for a wedding and we have to assemble a quick quorum so that we can approve, just so somebody's wedding isn't ruined because the establishment that's catering to them didn't think about the alcohol before the previous council meeting to where we could approve it, not because of a situation like this where it was more detailed. Is that correct, Chris?
That was more the reason we did that. The resolution was wrote that we don't have to bring, if you guys choose, we don't have to bring any of these to you because most of them hit consent as it is.
Right.
But if the council wishes us to still bring these when we can in front of the council, we're more than happy to do that as well. So that's something we'll follow up with the mayor on and get his direction and go from there.
Perfect. I just didn't want there to be some confusion out there.
No,
about
no,
all
it
of that.
it was more of,
Public, so I figured that's exactly why we done.
I think we've had, Tara can probably correct me and will, but we've had less than a dozen special meetings in the last 2 years, and they've all been for one issue, never anything else. And we're just wanting to try to be more friendly to the people, and people accidentally forget. And one thing we have noticed is almost every other city in town is moving to this process to just do it administratively.
Because the only other alternative would be to fault the establishment that's doing the catering, but that wouldn't be fair to the people that are having a wedding that weekend either.
So my earlier tenure, it was, so sorry, you didn't meet the deadline. And Steve Core and I were talking about that earlier today, and I won't tell you what he called me, but he told me I wasn't nice about it.
That's all I have.
All right, Councilwoman Bushman.
I have no report.
I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Mayor,
Councilman Shetron.
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, motion carries. We're adjourned. Thanks, everybody.